Hey guys, Malcolm Moore here. Thanks for joining me. Now last week I received a comment on one of my videos from YouTube user Yawns, who said, "Can you make a video that focuses on tight, short turns? It feels like most of the videos on YouTube focus on wide turns, which are great for when the slopes are empty, but most of the time they aren't. Short turns with a focus on speed control would be a great video." Alright, well thanks for the comment. Let's dive in and we'll make that video. Awesome, so that's what we're trying to get. Some nice, short, tight turns. For me to explain this, I'd encourage you to do the same as I am now. Take your board off and just stand in the snow. If you're not on the hill, you can do this at home, in your kitchen, in your living room. If you're skiving off work, do it in the office. You might get some weird looks. But first, here I am. I'm on the toe edge. My hips are forward, my knees are bent, and I can feel my shins pushing into the front of the boot. Now I'm going to start explaining the movements from the top of my body and work down right towards the board. So I'm going to start off, you can see my shoulders are pretty much in line with the board. If you look at my front arm, so for me it's my left arm, if I was to let my arm hang, it's kind of hanging just here, just in front of my foot, but essentially over the toe edge of my board. This is essential because it allows me to create the first bit of rotation I'm going to take into the turn. I'm just going to open my arm up, open my shoulder up out to the left. Imagine you're opening a door. As I do that, my knee and my hip of my front leg are going to follow. I open the door, I open up my left knee, I open up my left hip. And what you should start to feel, even just by doing this, is that your front foot is now almost rocking round. You should feel you're starting to apply pressure to the outside of the foot towards the heel. Open the door, the knee, the hip rolls round. But I'm keeping this back leg, I haven't moved that at all yet. My right knee, my back knee is still bent, I can still feel my shins pushing in the front of my boot. I'm still on the toe edge there. So I open the door, roll the front knee round. Now what this does, because my foot has rolled round like that, I've started to create this twist through the middle of the board, which is essential for making this quick, tight turn. My board is twisted through the middle there. And what that means, what's going on down on the snow, is that the front edge of my heel edge is starting to grip in the snow there. It wants to pull me into the turn, but I've still got pressure at the back edge of my board on the toe edge. And what that has done, to my body position, is I've started to get my body position to fall inside the turn. I've started to move my center of mass, which is all up here, my shoulders, my body, my hips. I've started to pull that across the board, all from this very small movement. So that's going to start the turn, but now we need to release the pressure at the back of the board. We need to get that back foot to match the front foot. That comes just from rolling this knee and the hip back, just like that. As I do that, my foot is going to roll flat, and therefore the board is going to roll flat onto the heel edge. So obviously on the slope, by this point, that will now have brought you round onto the heel edge. I'm back again, my shoulders are in line with the board, but most importantly, now my hips, my centre of mass, have crossed back over behind the board. So let me just run you through those movements again. Start off thinking about opening the door. The knee, the hip comes round. Once we've got into that position, we just follow with the back foot, pull the knee and the hip back onto the heels. Okay, so that's going to be all the movements you need for a toe to heel turn. And it's really worth practicing them at home or on the snow without your board on, because to get that turn nice and small, these movements are going to have to happen quite quick. So get the coordination for it down now, get it into your muscle memory, and then when we go onto the snowboard, it's going to come a lot easier. So we'll quickly switch it round and I'll run you through the heel to the toe side turn next. So now we're on our heel edge. The main difference being that now my shoulders, my hips are stacked vertically over my heels. We've pulled the centre of mass, our upper body, across from our toe edge position, round into the heel edge position. And what we're going to think about is where we opened that door before, now to pull the board back round, we're simply going to close it. So your arm comes across the board like that, your shoulder too, your front shoulder, and you can see I'm mimicking that movement with my lower body as well. As my arm and my shoulder comes through, so do my knee and my hip. Boom. 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 So again, I've now started to create this twist. My shoulders are starting to bring my body into the toe edge position, starting to cross my weight over the board onto the toe edge. And again, I've created the twist along my board. My front foot should now feel my shin starting to press in the front of my boots. I'm almost coming onto my toe edge. I can almost feel weight on the balls of my feet. Yet my back leg is locked back here on the heel side position. So again, it just becomes a case of releasing the pressure on the back foot. So that is going to mean pushing my knee, my hip across the board. And in doing so, you'll see my foot and therefore my board releases the pressure, rolls flat, and then can come forward onto the toe edge position. Now my hips forward, shoulders back in line with the board. So once again, let's work through those movements. Close that door, the knee, the hip comes over, left hip's pushed forward, your front hip, if you're goofy, will be your right hip, and then the back knee and the back hip follows, bringing you round into your toe edge position. So done quickly. Give those movements a good practice, and what I'll just do now, I'll get in a nice flat area, I'm on a bit of a slope here, and we can practice doing them both together. Close the door, open the door. Okay, give that a go. Close, open, close, open. Now let's put those movements into practice on the board. Starting a traverse across the slope, so it gives me time to check my posture. When I'm ready to make the turn, I'm just going to think about opening that door. Now for the next turn, we're just going to close it back over. Before we continue with those short turns, if you haven't already, please hit that like and that subscribe button. It really helps me out, helps me to grow my channel. Now back to the short turns. We've got one short turn over here, we're traversing across, and we have one short turn over here. So what we want to do now is basically eliminate that traverse, and all of a sudden we have short turns within a narrow corridor. So practice this movement off the board. Get the movements with your knees, your hips, your shoulder. Get it down off the board first. Practice again on your snowboard. And once you start to get that muscle memory, once you start to get used to making these movements nice and quickly, incorporating these short turns into your riding can be as simple as thinking open and close the door. And obviously short turns are great. They're perfect for steep slopes because the shorter the turn, the less time the board is pointing down the slope, the less time it's picking up speed. But as Jordan's mentioned in his question, you know, he said Sometimes the slopes are busy. You don't necessarily need to be on a steep slope, but you might just have to cut round and avoid other people. So short turns are great for that, for controlling your speed by making these tight little turns. If you've got a question, if you've got a suggestion for a video that you'd like to see me make, pop it down in the comments below, and you never know, it might be the next one that I make next week.